welcome to Stillspeakpod. This is going to be a very brief update about Noah Clare and Amber Clare, who were kidnapped by Jacob Clare, and Jacob is the father of Noah, and Amber is his niece. And they were located in California just a few days ago, safe. If you've been following the story, you're definitely going to want to hear this update. If you don't know about the story and want to know about it, I do have several videos that I made while they were missing, and you can get caught up there. So they were located, and Jake was taken into custody in Orange County, California. The children were with therapists and police as their families quickly ran around trying to get flights out to California within hours of them being found safe. And they flew out there and they got reunited, and it was just a beautiful moment. Seeing little Noah running into his mother's arms, brought me to tears, as it did many, many other people. I don't know how you can watch that and not be touched by it. It was just really wonderful to see. And the family was very relieved and really grateful for the public's help in helping to locate them. And it's still amazing that they're home. And everything seems to be, very happy, and we've gotten pictures, and there's video of Amber dancing, and she's with her family. But, and this is a huge but, not long after this, maybe a day or 2 days after, not much after, it came out that Jake was being charged for crimes committed in California, 2 of them. And those 2 involved sexual abuse of a minor. We can assume, because we know the story, that this involves Amber. And I don't know if it's something she said, something he said. We don't know the details of this. And quite frankly, I'm not sure I even want to know the details. Now, if you remember, in one of my videos, I explained that I really didn't even like discussing that, Amber and Jake were having inappropriate conversations prior to them taking off. And I explained that the reason why I didn't like that was, in my mind, she was going to come home safe eventually. And I was worried, because she's 16, that the information about her having this inappropriate conversation with her biological uncle was going to cause great fallout due to the sheer amount of people who now know about it. And that concern of mine has now amplified, okay? And I don't like talking about it. I really don't like it. And I'm solely thinking of Amber here when I'm feeling that way. You and I, as adults, right, we can understand as adults that she was manipulated, groomed, and all that comes with that. Possibly brainwashed, etc. We're more understanding, right? Teens, kids, not so much, right? They don't understand adult type things just yet. And so I'm imagining this poor girl, going back to school, and everybody knows about this. I mean, think about that. You were a teen. I was a teen one time. It's like one of the most difficult times in our lives, right? You're figuring out who you are and where you belong. And it's just, it just kills me for Amber that this information is out there. And that's how I felt when it was just her being missing, and just even having to mention that there was inappropriate conversations. And I don't want to use the word relationship, because it's not a relationship. That's why I'm not using that word, okay? But now it's worse because of these charges, because now we know that something did happen, right? So for her family, it's joyous and amazing. They have their daughter back. She's safe. They can start to work towards healing, possibly get some counseling, some therapy, etc. But now they have to kind of grapple with the fact that something clearly did happen. And it had to do with her biological uncle, right? That's hard stuff, man. That's hard. It's not just that she's a minor. She was his minor niece by blood. And he has a mother, okay? And his mother, actually the day he was found with the kids, that morning I watched an interview with his mother, and I was going to bring you that interview and I was going to talk about it, but then the kids were found and I was so elated by that I didn't even bother. And this poor mom, she was completely broken beyond anything I've seen. She was just completely distraught. She said she loved her son, but that she loved her grandchildren more, and that she thought she knew her son, that what he's doing is wrong, and she was bawling. It was heartbreaking. And you sit there and you go, gosh, there's a whole other element here. It's not just Amber's missing. It's not just Noah's missing. It's not just that families are concerned. You also have this mother who's sitting here going, what the hell is my son doing? Because that's both of her grandchildren. Amber and Noah are both of her grandchildren. So could you imagine how that makes her feel? And oftentimes, criminals' parents kind of get treated the same way you treat the criminal, because they end up getting blamed for why their grown child did something horrible, which is not their fault, right? You raise your child to a certain point, and then they become their own person, and they make their own decisions, and you can't blame them. But then you can't sit there and listen to this woman who's bawling and is very clearly devastated that he did this with both of her grandchildren, and your heart just breaks. So there's so much to this story, and it's really sad. Sad as far as the long-term damage that this has now caused several members of this family, okay? It's wonderful that they're back home and they can start to try to heal the best they can, but this event will always be with this family. So now imagine his mother finding out that her son not only kidnapped his own son and her other granddaughter, his niece, but now you're finding out that there was some type of sexual abuse that occurred on this trip. I mean, could you imagine being her? Oh my gosh, awful. It just breaks my heart. And we parents always seem to blame ourselves. And that poor woman will definitely blame herself. Even if she has no connection to why he did this whatsoever, directly, indirectly, she will still continuously blame herself. Even though he's, 35 years old, she will feel some form of guilt as his mother. So then you say, okay, well, you said you didn't really want to talk about it because, you didn't want her to have to deal with the fallout. Well, why are you even bringing up the charges? Well, because it's a part of the story. And back when they were missing, okay, the reason I had to talk about it, despite not wanting to talk about it, was because I needed to convey to you how urgent this was to share. We needed to get this girl home fast. And now I'm bringing it up because after we found out this information, people don't seem to think properly sometimes. And what they did was they immediately ran to the group that the family started to find them to start talking about these sexual abuse charges. Guys, that is so inappropriate. That is beyond inappropriate. Did you stop to think that this family did not want to publicly discuss in a group with thousands and thousands and thousands of people about their loved one being sexually abused by her relative? I mean, really? I could not even believe what I was seeing. I was like, there's a million other groups to discuss true crime cases. You can talk about it on this video. You can talk about it in other groups. You can talk about it in other YouTube channel chats. There's all these other different places. And you choose to run to the group the family runs. Come on, guys. Come on. And I'm not speaking to any specific person on my channel. I'm just saying in general, let's be mindful here, okay, that this family is severely damaged by what has happened here, and the last thing they most likely want to do is sit and discuss what happened between Jake and Amber, possibly. I mean, just think before you type. And while these charges and information is public, you know, think of Amber. She is safe. She's not deceased. She can see what's going on, okay? She's now fully aware of how much her story blew up. She's now aware how much everybody knew. She now knows that everybody knows that she had an inappropriate, conversation with her uncle, which led to her leaving a letter and taking off with him. She's now aware that people know what she wrote to her family before she left. So, just, come on. We have to be mindful here. We need to be, aware that this girl is old enough to Google her name. So now let's fast forward. Clare had a hearing today, and I tuned in and we waited through all these people. Oh my gosh, this poor judge was going person to person to person to person. She was a very sweet judge. She did not seem biased in any way. Some crimes were equal, if not worse than his. Some were less severe than his charges. She just seemed very fair, very kind, and understanding judge. Right before it was his turn, because they basically left him for almost last, there was breaking news. And this threw me for a loop because I was not expecting much updates besides the charges that we heard about. And this one was like, wait, what? What's going on? And that was that a woman in Gallatin, Tennessee, which is where Noah went missing from, was arrested in connection to Jake kidnapping the children for aiding and abetting. Say what? Yes. And police believe that there are other people who were involved. And they said that they think that this arrest will lead to other people being charged as well. And this is really interesting because one of the first things that the uncle of Noah said was that Jake was a part of all these different groups. And then when you kind of looked into Jake's, accounts on social media, he was in these odd groups, like Ascension type groups and, different types of topics similar to that. And the uncle mentioned that he was a part of, I forget the name of it, but it's basically Advocates for Fathers, which isn't a bad thing, right? But the problem is that sometimes, and this goes for mothers too, okay, especially in custody cases, that person will portray what's not happening, right? They might make it seem like, oh, she's keeping him from me, and she's this, and she's that, and she's blah, 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 or vice versa. He's this, he's that, he's this, he's that. And when you do that in a group of people who have felt they were wronged too, they're going to agree with you. They're going to back you up. And then you kind of have this army behind you because they want to help you. And it could be just based on a bunch of lies, right? They manipulated, or she manipulated. And this particular advocacy group that the uncle mentioned, I forget the freaking name of it now. It will come to me eventually, and I'll put it in the comments. But this particular group of people were also involved in the case of Sophie Long, who is now currently missing. And that's a whole nother story for another day because it's complex. But she went missing, and the father's allegations were unfounded in court. And when he didn't get his way, he took off with his daughter. So it's fascinating to me because when the uncle mentioned this group, I was like, oh, crap. Because I know this particular group of fathers have, kind of egged on other fathers or, convinced them to do something extreme like take off with their child. So now with this woman being arrested, this woman was in his Ascension group. And I remember there were a few posts by people asking who this woman was because they were trying to dig into each person he was connected to see if they had information. And I remember her name coming up in conversation, and then everything kind of just unfolded, and then they were found, and then that was the end of that. I'm not telling you her name. Her name is now out there. You can go find it for yourself. I don't want to do that. And the reason for that being is that she does have 2 small children. She is a mother herself. She appears to be married or maybe recently divorced. And as soon as her name came out, everybody ran to her Facebook account and started to leave really nasty comments on one of her posts from, a week and a half ago. And again, for me, I'm thinking of her children. They're small, but even still, I don't want to add to that. I also think we need to be mindful about that because some of the comments were like, well, how do you feel now that he raped his niece? And saying things like that, which again then goes back to me being concerned about Amber. So they're going at this woman pretty heavily in the comments section. Now, police have to have some form of evidence to show that she actually was helping him. And for that, that's of course wrong. That being said, Jake clearly is really good at manipulating, right? He's really good at that. I think that's rather clear. And so we have to consider that he heavily lied and manipulated her as well, which she might have thought by helping him, like she was doing something good in her mind because he was saying, all these crazy things maybe. Who knows? We don't know. At the same time, it's, of course, human for us to be like, you have children yourself, and you helped this man to kidnap his 3-year-old son and his 16-year-old niece, and you're from the same town as Noah's mother. So when Noah's mother was freaking the hell out because her baby, her 3-year-old, she had no idea where he was, if he was being fed, if he was okay, or he was alive. You were in that same town, and you said nothing? You're a mother yourself. So, yeah, I can understand the anger towards her. Believe me, I would want to, you know what I'm saying, okay? So, I get it. At the same time, again, we have to consider here that she too was manipulated. We don't know the details. And I don't think it helps the healing process for the family to now go after this woman and, expose even more what has happened to Amber personally. So anyway, Jake finally went up before the judge. There's a protective order against the people involved. That would be Amber and Noah. He asked, does this mean my son too? So he seems to still have this high concern for his son. Yes, of course it does. And he has a bail review on December 8th. Now we know that he actually has 8 charges of sexual abuse in California. And there was media request, and it was denied. And they had his camera off. And people immediately were thinking like, the court is protecting him. This is why they denied it. No, it's to protect the minors in the story. Okay, again, we're talking about minors. We're talking about sexual abuse. Okay, they're not looking to protect the criminal. They're looking to protect the children. Okay, and actually, correction, it's kidnapping and then 7 charges surrounding sexual abuse of a minor. He is facing a maximum sentence of 14 years and 4 months in prison for the California charges. He was additionally charged with kidnapping in Tennessee and Kentucky, because Amber was taken from Kentucky and Noah was taken from Tennessee. The Orange County District Attorney Todd Spitzer, he made some comments about how a single person has caused so much pain and misery. And then he went on to say, quote, "These are innocent children, and the selfish and depraved acts of this individual ripped a little boy out of the arms of his mother and stole the innocence of a little girl." And said that the Orange County District Attorney's Office will do everything it can to prevent this monster from hurting any more children, unquote. Jake is going to be held without bail at the Intake Release Center in Santa Ana, California, pending extradition to Tennessee. The bail review will be on December 8th. It's kind of wild if you think about it, because for the 7 charges in California, it's 14 years and 4 months. At least that's how it's worded. And so I don't believe it includes the kidnapping charges. I don't want to believe that if you kidnap 2 children and, commit these sexual acts, that you only get 14 years and 4 months. I have to think that is worded correctly. Because if not, wow, are you kidding? Only 14 years for that? But then think about that. Noah's 3. I'm not quite sure when his birthday is, but he's 3. So let's just say it's 14 years he serves and he doesn't, parole out. By then, Noah's 17 years old. Which goes back to what I said in one of my last videos. Was it worth it? Was this 2 weeks worth you now going to jail until your son is going to be an adult? What the hell were you thinking? Seriously. Did you really think you were going to get away with this? That's like the one question I would love to ask him. If somebody came to me and said, we're going to put you in a room with Clare and you're only allowed one question, my one question would be, did you honestly believe you were going to get away with this? Please answer this. And the sad thing about this is the collateral damage here. Because not only was it damage to Noah, not only is it damage to Amber, to Jake's mother, to Noah's family, to Amber's family, to all of the extended family, okay? But now this woman who was involved in this, apparently, allegedly, and possibly other people, but this woman specifically also has children. And now her children are also affected by her helping in some way. And for 2 weeks. 2 weeks for this man to be on the run. You guys have destroyed and, interrupted so many different lives. And caused countless amounts of people to have to probably seek therapy from this. It's unbelievable. And I'm forgetting somebody in all this. You know who I'm forgetting? His other child. Jake has a daughter who's roughly the same age as Amber. Imagine her finding out this information. Now, first, for starters, her father takes his own, one child and then his niece. And so even though she didn't want to be a part of her father's life anymore, there's got to be that feeling of abandonment, like you took them, you didn't care about me. But then finding out probably about this inappropriate conversation with Amber, her leaving a letter, now finding out about these charges. Could you imagine how she feels mentally about her father? It's a shame. It's an absolute shame. And even a shame when it comes to Jake. Because I know a lot of people don't want to hear this, but I'm just going to say it. He's a good-looking guy, right? He's good to look at. Let's just say it that way. And he seemed to be really talented. He has a lot of pictures where he redid his home. He redid a Jeep, so he had some talents. So you're going, what the hell went wrong here? You had a lot going for you. You have a beautiful daughter. You have an adorable little boy who probably adored you. And you had some things going for you. And you just destroyed your life. And countless other ones. Somebody said to me many, many years ago when I was, I think 18, 19, 20 years old. I don't even remember who said it, but it sticks out to me with this story. But they said to me, the most important decision you make in life is not who you marry, it's who you have children with. And it always stuck out to me. It really did. And when you hear the countless stories, and some of you have probably been through this with custody battles and exes who give you a hard time and you're in and out of court, you probably agree with that statement now, right? In hindsight, you're like, oh, God, yeah, totally. That's like the most important decision you ever make, because it's your job as parents to raise this child. And if you're not going to be together, then you have to be able to figure out how you're going to do it amicably. And not everybody can do that. And I really doubt that Noah's mom, when she was pregnant with Noah, imagined that one day, 3 years later, this would happen. But I'm going to bet money that when it did happen, she was looking back in hindsight, thinking of every possible red flag that she could have missed, and tormented herself, thinking like, did I miss something? And what about when he said this? And what about when he said that? And I should have known when he did this, that he was eventually going to do this. And, you do all those mind conversations with yourself and torment yourself. But truly, if you're going to talk to your kids, I think that's one of the best pieces of advice or best things to say. It's like, be very mindful of who you have children with. It is the biggest and most important decision you will ever make in your life. And even if you're careful, right, you still can have something like this happen completely out of nowhere. But we do the best we can in life, right? We try to avoid certain things, and sometimes you're just not successful. That's just a part of life. Now, I'm going to say something, and this is definitely, and I want to make this clear, an attack on Amber's family at all, okay? Because I'm sure they're kicking themselves in the ass for it. I'm sure they already had a conversation with Noah's mother about it. They seemed to be all very close, and they were very great with working with one another to bring their children home. And I'm not trying to add to that or attack anybody in any way. That being said, they saw this inappropriate, conversation between Amber and Jake, which led to them asking Jake to move out of their home. It seems to be that it was like a few weeks or a few months before this happened. And Noah's uncle had mentioned in an interview that he thought that Jake was worried that Amber's family was going to tell Noah's mother, and that Jake was concerned that if they did, that she would take him to court to make him lose all custody. He got worried and he took off. And when he said that, I was like, you know what? He's probably 100% spot on here if that's what happened. And then I thought to myself, imagine if they had told her, right? What if they did tell her? And could this have been avoided? Maybe because there wasn't anything concrete in the conversation, because this is what was said by her parents, that there wasn't anything that they could press charges with. Maybe that's why they didn't, and they just felt like by asking Jake to leave, it kind of solved the problem. But they didn't want him to lose any type of custody to his son. Listen, coulda, shoulda, woulda, right? And it is what it is. And I have no doubt in my mind, because Amber's family seems very lovely, and again, were amazing working with Noah's mom to get these children home. And I'm sure, there's my Facebook thing again, sorry about that, that they have regretted that they have maybe discussed that with them, Noah's side of the family, and that's none of our business, right? That's something that they have to talk about and work through and whatnot. That's none of our business at all. And I feel bad, because if they do have that feeling of oh my God, what if we did tell her what happened? Maybe this would have never happened. Then they start beating themselves up, and that makes me feel bad for them, because I think, okay, well, you're also human, right? You had no way of predicting that this was going to happen. So you can't beat yourself up. Again, coulda, woulda, shoulda. You didn't. 'Tis life. And honestly, it had sounded like it was only a few weeks or a few months prior to this. And even if they had told her and she did something within the court, doesn't mean that anything would have happened in that short period of time, and this still could have happened. Because court custody, it's such a process, right? Some of the things take so long to get handled and settled and blah, 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 hearings and whatnot, motions. So really, in reality, even if they had, it most likely still would have happened. It's all water under the bridge, because these children are back home with their families. And even though the road is going to be rocky, even though so many people have been affected, even though they're going to need extensive therapy and help and support to get through this, at the end of the day, they're home, they're safe, and he is where he belongs. I don't think that I'm going to continue covering the story. Now, I said that a couple of days ago, but then I wanted to talk about this. But as far as coming on, if details come out, which I don't think it will, because she is a minor, I'm not going to come on here and discuss it. I really want to give Amber the space and respect that she deserves. This is something huge she's going to go through in her life. She's going to end up being me, in her mid to late 30s one day, looking back on this and just, right? But that's a long road and a long process to get to that point. Now, if other people are arrested in connection with helping him and those details come out, that's a different story, and I probably will do another video, because I think that would be very interesting on what motivated these people to help this particular man to do this horrific thing. But as far as I'm talking about, I'm not quite sure that I'm going to continue to do updates about what Amber went through. And I said this was going to be short, and I lied, because now we're at 35 minutes, but I am wrapping it up for the night, because I want to go and get into bed. I have to do a ton of stuff tomorrow. As a side note here, I went to go put up my Christmas tree that's only 2 years old, and 90% of the lights were out. So yay! Not. I usually wait until after Thanksgiving, but I just wanted to get it up, and now I'm delayed because I have to fix these stinking freaking lights. But that leads me to say I'm probably going to be doing a video tomorrow or possibly Wednesday, maybe both days. I'm not quite sure. We're actually not celebrating Thanksgiving on Thursday. We're going to be celebrating it on Saturday because half of my family is working on Thanksgiving. So I wanted to just wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. For those of you who celebrate Thanksgiving, be safe. No drinking and driving, okay? We don't need you to get any charges. And have lots of turkey, take a nap afterwards, some green bean casserole and whatnot. And that's to anybody who may not come back to the channel until after Thanksgiving. I just wanted to wish you a happy Thanksgiving early. And I don't know if the Thanksgiving parade's going on right now, but if it is, I know last year that was weird and they had no crowd there because of COVID. I don't know if they're having the full parade this year, but if so, also enjoy the parade if you like to do that sort of thing. And now I'm out and I'm going to bed. And until next time, I'll see you soon.